Hey y'all, what's up? How y'all
Welcome, welcome,
doing?
welcome.
And how you doing, Mr. Best in the world?
I'm chilling out, chilling out. You know what I mean? So, what's today? Tuesday, right?
Yeah, all day. Yes. So I want to welcome you on to another edition of Conversations, hosted by me, QB. And I really hope that you all enjoy this topic. I've been reflecting a lot on it. This weekend, as you may have seen with the intro and any of the promotions that we've been posting, it is scars are healed wounds. I know some people
mm,
will agree to disagree with that because wounds are a whole other subject within themselves, which we'll get into in this conversation. And the hashtag is cozy conversation. So, as I've stated before, I'm going to give you the softness, the coziness, the loving, but sometimes things that we need to hear that may feel like a little tough love. Can't hold your hand all the time, but anyway, go grab your blanket, grab your cup of tea, whatever you choose, and get cozy and comfortable. And let's dive into this conversation. First, I want to start out with a quote. Last time I read the quote at the end, but I'm going to start reading the quotes in the beginning. And so this quote says, "My scars remind me that I did survive, that I did indeed survive my deepest wounds. They remind me that the damage life has inflicted on me has in many places left me stronger." We're definitely going to focus on the I survived part. And this is by Steve Goodyear. Goodyear. Please forgive me for mispronouncing his name. All right, so let's get into it. Scars are healed wounds. So y'all know me. I'm the intellectual type. And I'm an intellectual soapbox. So we're gonna we're gonna give you a little background, a little medical, but also tied into real life. All right, so scars. Let's talk about, what are scars exactly? We know in the real sense, a scar is an indication that something happened, an injury, or something like that. Um, I'm sure all of us can look at our body. I mean, just look at your hands or your arms, and you can see like, oh, okay, I got this little bump, scar, scratch, something here. That means something happened to you. It's visible.
mm,
Many times in our spiritual, emotional life, psychological, our scars are not always visible. In those cases, sometimes the scars are visible in our behavior. And we'll dive a little deeper into that as the conversation goes on. Anywho, um, our scars are just indicators that there was a wound there. Something traumatic happened. And so that wound has healed. It's gone through many stages. And so now there's a scab. And oftentimes, what do we do? We're going to get into this. We get a wound, we
mm.
pick at it. It's healing, but we pick at it because we can't stand a little crusty skin right there. So what happens? We usually reopen the wound or we infect the wound. Look, we're finna get all into this conversation. So I can't wait for more people to jump in and get into the conversation. And Mr. Best in the World, please just jump in wherever you want. Let me know what you got to say on all these things that we're going to be discussing on tonight.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I'm gonna bring in someone who definitely wants to add to the topic.
Please.
I'm gonna bring in Queen Forever 2K.
Hi,
What's going on,
Queen. How are
Queen?
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, Again, the topic is scars or healed wounds. Were you able to hear some of my intro explanation of what scars are?
No, unfortunately.
Okay, so basically, what I said, scars are an indication that something happened, like an injury
Mm-hmm.
or something even more traumatic. And of course, I'm going to be going back and forth between, real life with our bodies. I got scars all on my arms, and
Mm-hmm.
then into your emotional, physical, like emotional, personal, like your psychological, emotional life. You
Yes.
know, we have scars and wounds and the healing processes, back and forth. And I was also saying how we get a wound, it starts to heal. And what do? We pick at it, that,
Yep.
that little scab. And then the wound either reopens or gets infected, and we got to go through the process all over again. And
Yep.
so here we are, such is life. And so I want to talk about the rate of healing. This looks different for every single person. No
Mm-hmm.
matter who you are, we could be two 45-year-old people. I say that because that's my two 45-year-old people. But depending on the stage in life we're in, our nutrition, our other habits, just what we do on a daily basis, that can affect the healing process and how quickly our wounds heal. Also, want to note, wounds heal from the inside out. So
Mm-hmm.
the process may seem slow, but something is happening. I've had surgeries, major surgeries, and I've actually had to watch my leg heal from the inside out because the stitches kept popping. When I tell you that was an humbling, unpleasant experience to see the inside of my leg and
Mm.
watch that tissue kind of grow back anyway, yeah. So wounds often take longer to heal depending on how deep and traumatic the experience was. So, Queen, would you like to jump in and say something here?
No, I'm with you at this point. No.
Okay. Alrighty. So, like I said, I'm one of those intellectual types, and so I kind of go back and forth with the medical, the real life, the literary stuff, and try to tie that into, um, real life. That's just who I am. So I hope everybody can keep up and go along. I hope I don't lose anybody. Now let's also talk about the stages of what a wound goes through. So it starts out in the inflammatory. That's when it's all red and hurtful. May have some pus. It's uncomfortable. So let's look at our life. Something really traumatic happened to us. We are heartbroken to our core, and so that's the inflammatory part. We don't know how we're going to make it. We don't know if it's going to heal. It looks worse than what it is at times. It feels worse than what it is. We just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's the inflammatory part. The pro- proliferate part is okay, that in between. So it's not so red. There's still the scab. There's still some indication, something happened. Usually when wounds are healing, they start itching. Anyone who's ever had a cut of any kind, something deep, below the first or second layer of tissue, um, as it's healing, it itches. All we want to scratch it. And again, that's where that reopening that wound comes in. However, there are all kind of topical creams and this, that, and whatever to really help with that. So first, you got the inflammatory where it's really bad. You got this part where it's healing, but it's itching and you still want to kind of pick at it. And now here we are at the remodeling. So the wound is healed. There's the scar. The scab is gone. So now your skin is trying to get back to, it will never be normal again. And we know in life, when we have experienced something truly traumatic, truly heartbreaking, we're never going to be who we were or where we were before that thing happened to us. And I'm going to give some examples later on. Um, However, our life kind of comes back around and we can try to function, find some way to move on, not move on, move through. I don't really like to use the term move on, get over, because those are words that
Mm.
people on the outside looking in try to tell you when they just don't know
Mm.
what else to say. Get over it, move on. No.
Mm.
I would never tell anybody to do that. Work through, go through, because going over it. going around it, getting over it, just you don't really heal either. You have to go through sometimes, most all times. You
Mm.
have to go through to really get to the healing. So, all right. So that's a remodeling stage. It's like we've kind of worked through this thing. It's not itching. It's not red. It's not sore. We're not crying our eyes out. We're going back to work. We're living a somewhat normal life, but, you know, we're making it. Sometimes holding on barely, but we're making it.
Mm.
All right. And so, again, scars, wounds often, more than not, look worse than they are, and they look worse before it gets better. So keep that in mind. I mentioned some of the factors that affect the healing. Now, okay, in the medical sense, we have illness, nutrition, age, whether you're a smoker or not, your skin elasticity, your blood, all these factors, these biological factors. Well,
Mm-hmm.
then let's look at this from the other side. Um, Factors that affect your healing and the rate of healing: hurt, anger, sleep loss, poor nutrition. That can affect your spiritual, emotional, psychological healing as well. Destructive behaviors, and then seeking revenge. Now, that one right there, when, when we are
Mm.
so focused on, I want to get them back, I got to get them back, and I'm not going to feel good um, until blah, blah, blah. That is hindering your healing. You are constantly reopening that wound of what that person did to you, said to you, whatever the case. You
Mm.
know, yes, it hurts. Yes, it's painful. I'm not saying forgive them and move on and get over it. I'm saying try with all your might to work through it and let that person, place, or thing be a non-factor. So I'm gonna pause there,
Mm.
Mr. Best in the
Now,
World. Come on, give me your 2, 3, 5 cents.
well, I was gonna say that a lot of times those things are a process, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that just happens overnight. I think that oftentimes, even for myself, I've gotten frustrated because I felt like it should be something that happens instantly, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it should be microwavable. Like, okay, I went through this, or I'm going through a certain, situation. Okay, when is the timetable for this? When is this over with? When is the beginning, the middle, and the end? But sometimes, it's not that cut and dry. And a lot of times in life, things are not that cut and dry. So we have to just, go through our processes. I mean, go through the different things that we're going through and allow whatever lessons and whatever things we need to go through in that moment to manifest itself so that we can grow and become better. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, Queen, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
Um, I think it's all true. I think a lot of times the problem is that we don't allow ourselves the time to heal. We try to, as far as like broken hearts or even injuries, like you can't just jump back up because it feels better.
Right.
I had a sprained ankle, and I've never broken anything, thank God, knock on wood. Um, and I was in a boot and crutches, and it was the most awkward thing. And now I see how um I operate in a sense of fear because of what happened. Like even like walking or stepping up steps or stepping down steps, it's my body automatically tenses, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like your ankle's fine, and I'm still functioning sometimes in
Mm-hmm.
that sprained ankle mode,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just weird. And I'm like, I'm scared to step too high. Like I was stepping out of a pool, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's too high for me to step. And it took me a minute to even get out of the pool because the steps in the pool were really high. They weren't like average steps. And I'm like, you can do this. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh my
Yep.
gosh, my ankle, what's gonna happen? So yeah, I think
Yes.
allowing yourself the time to heal too is important, but also, you know, allowing yourself the time to get back in the race, if that makes sense. Get back in
Hmm.
it and get used to functioning in a healed position. If because I think
Yes,
sometimes we
yes.
get so focused on, we get so caught up in functioning in the hurt space.
Ooh,
We
there
don't
you
know how
go.
to function in the healed space.
I'm gonna write that down. Functioning in the heart space. That's like a whole ministry topic right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Cause see, I can think about some times in my life when I've gone through some things. I've
Mhm.
gone through divorce. I've gone through getting kicked out of college. I've gone through death of both of my
Mhm.
parents and loss of what I thought was love,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so here I am trying to get up and go and function and do. There was one time when I was married, my husband had lost his mom. And I know I had a health condition, but I was going to try to champion it out, and go
Mhm.
with him on this trip to be there for him, even though he was telling me no, because looking back in retrospect, her house was not suitable for me.
Mm.
Um, um, I'm sorry, just one moment.
It's okay.
Mhm. So her house was not suitable for me, and I
Mhm.
knew this, but I wanted to go because I wanted to be there for him.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "No, we can't go." And I'm like, I'm packing my bags. I'm getting my nails done. I'm going. I'm just like, I'm going. He's like,
Mhm.
"No, you can't go. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna be okay." The day came for him to leave. He left. Like he took the
Mhm.
car. He went somewhere. And he was like, "I'll be back." So then he called me later, hours later. Oh, by the way, I left the car parked. Yada yada. The keys are in. Blah blah. I'm on the road. I'm like, "Are you what?" I cried like someone killed my dog, somebody died. Like,
Mhm.
I sat in that hurt. I was in beauty school at the time. I had to take a week off of school because I was
Mhm.
so hurt. I'm
Mhm.
like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Mhm.
But like you said, I chose to not try to function in that hurt space. I would have been no good at school because I would have
Mhm.
been mad and sad and all these things,
Yeah.
trying to do somebody's nails and do a good job. No, 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 man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I eventually got through it. I ain't gonna say got over it because I still talk about it today and it makes my eye twitch. But
Yeah,
but I got through it.
I I had lost my mom, and like I had lost three people, including my mom, every 2 weeks. But
What?
I was literally, yeah, I was literally over 3,000 miles away because I
Wait
was
a
on the
minute.
West Coast. Um, and so when I went to the funeral of my mom, I went back home to the West Coast and registered for school. And but it was like I just wanted to continue to keep going, right? Like just nothing happened, right? Yeah, you cry, whatever, but I'm good. And for 2 semesters, I would like go to school for about a week and a half, and then I would just couldn't leave the house. And
Mhm.
so they put me on academic probation and all that, um but I didn't give myself the time to heal. I
Uh,
jumped back into work. I was working at a bank, and I mean, I told my boss about it at the time. She knew. And so she was like, "Hey, if you ever just need a moment, just make sure you make eye contact with me, close your window, go in my office, do
okay.
whatever." I went to therapy. I mean, there were women who came in there, smelled like my mother, looked like my mother, sounded like my mother, but I did never took the time off to really sit with my feelings because I was so afraid of them. Like it was weird. Like I could see my feelings from a distance,
Hmm.
and I could open up the door and feel how heavy it was. And I was like, I don't know if I can make it through that.
Okay.
So I'm not ready for all of that right now. You
Well,
know, all of the crying, because it's a crying that is like you got to take aspirin or something because you got a headache and the lights hurt your eyes. Everything is aching. It's almost like you're being ripped from the inside out. So, but I never gave my, like, after the funeral, I never gave myself the time right after to just go. I just
mm,
need some time to deal with this. You know,
well,
I need to sit and feel. I just thought, oh, just death happens every day. Just get over it. But not your parents. Your parents' death don't happen every day, and it's a different kind of death if you are very, 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 very close. Me and my mother were like
mm,
extremely close. So
well,
yeah, so you just gotta give yourself, and years later it doesn't hit me as hard, definitely, but it still hits,
mm-hmm,
and it's okay, and I had to be okay with that. And like, I'm like, why am I still crying? Why am I still feeling this? She died in 2000, but
mm-mm,
it's
yeah.
it's it's okay. It's okay, you
And,
know.
and that's why I like to use the phrase going through versus going
Yeah,
over and around or getting over,
yeah,
putting things pat. No, you just keep going through until you get to a place that's not so foggy, not so heavy as you said, that's, a little lighter, and you can breathe a little better, and just, but you're still going through. I don't think we ever, ever, ever get over the death
mm,
of someone that was super close to us. Like,
yeah.
we don't ever get over it. Like, even now, my mom has been gone since I was 17 and I'm 45.
Oh
And there's
wow.
still moments I'm like, I just want to have this girl on girl conversation. There are
Yeah, yeah,
questions I want to ask my mom about being a woman and what her life was like. Just so, yeah, you never get over it. And
yeah.
don't let anybody try to tell you to get over it.
Yeah, yeah, especially when you hit like milestones like graduating college and getting
Yes,
married, having kids and buying a
yes,
house, and it's always like, "Oh my gosh, she's not here or he's not here," you know.
yes. Because I was the only one of my children, of her children, to have a child that she didn't get to meet. And I'm like, she would have loved my son. Like, she would have absolutely adored him, you know, and spoiled him rotten. But, that's just not what life had in store. So here we are.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to
Good.
talk about this other aspect, and this kind of ties into what you mentioned. Um, Oftentimes we have abnormal scars, and for most of us, especially Black people or people from African descent, it's called keloid skin, where no matter what you do to try to heal that area, there's this puffiness. There's this anyone who has keloid
Like a
skin.
like a sacky
Yes,
a sack ball kind of
yeah.
tissue that grows.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I knew a guy who, unfortunately, he had keloid skin on his face, and he used to try to wear a beard, but he got it from when he cut himself, injured himself, and so it was like literally all down his face. However, he learned to live with it and just be who he was, irregardless, or regardless of, sorry, regardless of, again, applying this to our real life. There are things that happen to us that change us physically, mentally, and so we have to navigate life in a different way.
Yep.
So go ahead, Miss Queen.
Um yeah, I think you know, um yeah, I'm trying to think. Um but it's so true how, if you have a scar, birthmark, um, you know, I haven't really had too much um other than being too short. I did have like a huge burn on my foot, but it wasn't a birthmark. It took a long time to heal as
Okay.
a child. So, but as a child I was able to, my mom was able or my dad was able to hide it, with socks or certain types
Oh,
of shoes or, you know, and it was a really big, um, really bad burn. But um for the most part, I kind of stayed away from things that could hurt me because I
okay.
watched my older siblings, and I was the type that, if, for instance, my sister hit her, she fell on a shard piece of glass. We were running around the house, at a friend's house, and they had like a lot of junk in the yard, but kids, you still play, and
Mm-hmm.
she fell on it and cut her head, and I helped her up, so I had blood on me, but because of how deep it was, like I saw it, I started freaking out. So I ran home first, and they thought I was injured. Like
Ah,
they were about to leave her and take me to the hospital.
oh
And
my
then she
God.
came and she had this piece of glass sticking out her forehead, and they were like, "Who's injured here?" And she was like, "She's not, it's me." And she's just kind of walking and like nothing happened, and
Oh my
and
God.
then my dad wiped my face and my hands, and he was like, "Nothing's wrong with you. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm in pain. I need help." Like, so, I was just a traumatic kid, but,
Oh,
she had a scar on her forehead. I just remember that for a long time.
oh
But
wow.
yeah, I think you just have to function in what you consider your,
Mhm.
what do you call them? Not setbacks, but your imperfections.
Okay. Yeah.
We all have imperfections that we have to settle in and find who we are, you know. Um,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. I mean, I have a lot of those, but nothing, just nothing major, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like it was stupid things like wanting to be not be considered a different race, if that makes sense, or a different
Hmm.
culture because
Yes.
of the way I looked.
Okay.
I have very curly hair,
Okay.
and so a lot of the black kid or the Spanish kids would call me Dominican, and I was like,
Hmm.
why do I have to be Dominican? I'm black. So something stupid, like something not stupid, but so minor as that, to the point where it it was traumatizing me, and so I asked my mom to give me a perm because I didn't like being considered something that I wasn't. Like,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, it was weird. And
oh
I mean, so
wow.
she was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm tired of them talking to me in Spanish. I'm tired of them calling me this, and
Oh
they're
my
calling me
goodness.
Maria. My name is this, and blah blah blah." And she was
Oh
like,
my.
"Okay," and they kind of looked at me and was like, her and my dad was like, "Okay, whatever." And I
Wow.
got a perm, and they stopped calling me Maria.
That is crazy. Wow.
Yeah. But it was really like, as I remember it being really traumatizing to me. Like, why you keep calling me something that I'm not? Like, why
Yeah.
do I have to be that? Why does that equate this where you consider it good hair, quote unquote? Why can't I be a black woman, black young girl and have this? Like, why are you saying I'm lying? They was like, "Oh, you got a Jerry curl. That ain't your real hair." The black kids used to tell me that's a Jerry curl, and I'm like, this ain't no soul glow in here. Like,
Wow.
so yeah, it was just weird.
That's a whole other
You know what I mean? So you
conversation.
can write that down. We'll have that good hair conversation.
Girl, look, I'm so,
But did you know that they passed the Crown Act though, right?
yeah, in
Yeah.
California. I'm
Huh?
like,
It's only out here.
Well, I don't know if it's all over now,
I
but I
think it's
know it was in
I think it's
California.
somewhere else too, if I'm not mistaken.
But I'm like, why do we need a
Do we have
law
to?
that should govern how we look naturally? Like, I don't understand that. But okay, such is life. Such
Well,
is life.
I would say at least it at least they did it. You know,
Yeah.
I understand why do we have to get there, but the fact is that we have to understand that that's the way we are. That's the way this world is. So I just try to roll with the punches and celebrate whatever little victories I can get. Right?
Lord
What's
have
up, Mr.
mercy.
Best in the World? You back?
Yeah, I'm back, family. I'm back. I'm back.
All right, so move on with some other parts of our conversation. We really hit on a lot of these things that I wrote down. And like I tell anybody on my other platforms, I never tell a story in linear form. I write down outlines and all this, but it's like, why do I even write stuff down? Because, it doesn't even go that way. But just want to give a few more points and really tie, this into real life. And Miss Queen, you've been giving some wonderful, wonderful points on how we continue to go through life, no matter what we've been through. We continue just to go through, not get over, not go around, not go under, but go through. Even when it feels heavy, it feels hard, it feels like we're unworthy of being healed completely from the inside out. As I was doing this topic, I found a lot of articles from a scriptural perspective. And like, I don't want to make this a ministry moment. I just still want to make it a cozy conversation because I want everyone, no matter what your faith system is, to get something from this conversation. So this is not about religious, it's about more spiritual, your inner being kind of perspective when you've been hurt, when you've been injured or traumatized and or traumatized. Um, so we talked about these wounds in life, mentioned those earlier: betrayal, illness, death, abandonment, heartbreak, and the list goes on and on and on. We all have experienced something that has injured us, that has traumatized us. Um, some people more than others. That's why therapists exist in this world. God bless them, because sometimes we need outside help. That's like, okay, Miss Queen, you mentioned how you got a burn. I don't know if you went to the doctor or not, but there are things we have to go to the doctor for, a medical MD, a hospital, ER, whatever. In life, we have to seek out other resources to get our healing. And just like there are topical ointments and oral antibiotics and other treatments, when it comes to matters of the heart in your life, you have to seek other sources to aid in your healing. Yeah, sometimes you can sit in and do it alone, but I guarantee you, you're going to have some slow times. You're going to have some setbacks. You're going to have some days you don't feel like, things you don't do. But you need someone. You need possibly an accountability partner. You need a circle of reliable people who care
Mm.
about you, your whole being. Please, you cannot go through any trauma alone. Please don't try to do it. Get you a circle of friends, associates, accountability partners, whatever you want to call them. Do not go through your healing process alone. I am proof positive you cannot do it alone. I don't mind telling bits and pieces of my story. So wounds look different for every person. Even a heartbreak looks different for every person, depending on the level of time and energy committed, invested into that relationship or the situation. So don't let someone try to sell you a cookie cutter solution for your issue. Your issue is yours. Your wound is yours. Your trauma is yours. Your injury is yours. The healing solution is going to be need to be catered to you and you only. Don't let somebody sell you. Anyway, I'm gonna get off that soapbox, even though we own the intellectual soapbox.
Let me ask a question. Okay, so so you're saying that we shouldn't go through the traumas alone, right?
You
But
shouldn't.
but what if in cases that like you have to? There's been a lot of cases where I've had to go through things alone, or I'm not
I mean,
able to have certain conversations. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
I
because
mean,
that person isn't ready, or maybe because they're not around, or you know what I'm saying. So,
there are certain aspects, unfortunately, you do have to go through alone.
hmm
Um, there's a situation for me. I wanted to talk to my great aunt who raised me about some aspects of my childhood. Unfortunately, when I
mm,
got to the point when I wanted to talk to her, she was suffering with dementia. And so there's
mm,
always going to be that part of me. I hate to say unhealed.
hmm
That wound is going to remain kind of in that itchy, healing, but itchy and irritating state.
I get you. I get you.
Yeah. But if you can, to the best of your ability, find someone to help you. I mean, if not, there's always a journal. There is, I like to do, I haven't done this lately, write stuff down and burn it. Um,
Mm.
like that can
Is it
help.
kind of a way to like kind of like have a sense of healing and have like clarity, or be
Yeah,
able to
to
kind of move
release
on?
it.
Okay. Okay.
And that's for me. There are other times that I write things out in a prayer formation and I put it in a box. I have a prayer box at home.
Okay.
Um, and I just let God handle it. I take my hands off of it. I stop trying to put ointment on it. I stop trying to, well, that is my ointment. I give it to God.
Mm,
That is my ointment of choice. you know. Um, some things you just have to hold its hand and walk with
mm,
it. Like I talked earlier about, some people have keloid skin, especially in the black community. You've seen people with the puffy, depending on what part of their body they're injured on, they have this little dark, puffy things, um, this keloid skin. Your skin heal is from the inside out. Well,
mm.
have you ever seen keloids on people?
I believe so. Yes. Yes.
They're really big or sometimes they're small. They're darker than your skin. They're usually kind of soft and puffy, little spots.
Mm,
Anyway, people with those with keloids, they have to learn how to live life with them. So there are just some things you just have to hold its hand and say, "Come on, you going with me today, but I'm not gonna let you act the monkey on me." You know, you gonna sit here and be quiet. Well, I go about my life and my day. That may seem irrational to some people, but some of our hurts, injuries, we have to hold its hand and walk with it, or it take it along with us. If we just can't
mm,
let it go, you can't stuff it away because it's gonna pop out at the wrong moment. Um, I
mm.
mean, you can stuff it away, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Um,
Queen, what you thinking about this?
Um, I think it's important to um have support in healing. Um, I think I think sometimes the danger in when we have support is that people tend to think just because they went through the same thing that it's the same and it's not. For
that's it.
instance, I had a friend who lost her mom, but so you know, my friends were like, "Oh, you should talk to so and so," and she was very sweet, but I told her I had to tell her one day because I just found myself getting irritated and angry, at the support she was giving me, and I had to tell her, I said, "Your mom's death and my mom's death is two different deaths." And she
Yes,
was like, "How?" And I said, "Where was your mom?" She said she was in the house with me. I said, "Where was my mom?" 3,000 miles away. I said, "Big difference." I said,
Mm,
your experience is very different than my experience." So yes, we both lost a mother, or I had friends who lost their, they can't stand their mother and their mother's alive and they don't speak
Yeah.
to their mother. And I'm like, I don't understand that, you know,
Yeah.
like, but then I'm like, I wouldn't trade that relationship that you have just for her to be here for the one I had, you know.
Mm,
So I think it's important to talk about how you feel because when you don't, it you project it onto others and it's very destructive. It can destroy and push people away because you're really feeling this and
Mm-hmm.
because you haven't come almost like you haven't compartmentalized your pain because you're not dealing with it that you are, you know, it's all in one box.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, you know, it could be the grocery man, it could be the Uber driver, you know what I mean? It could be
mm,
the garbage man, it could be the squirrel that just ran across your foot. You know what I mean?
mm,
It don't matter.
mm,
It's all the same pain. And so you give that same energy to everything and everyone around you. And
Yes.
it's very destructive, but it also makes people you know, it can make people aware and go, yeah, you're not, you know, like for instance, my husband, whenever my mom's birthday comes around or Mother's Day, I'm 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 revving up. I'm becoming something different, you know, even though she's not the same, you know, I'm not the same raw person I was before. It's just something in me that's, you know, like the emotions. I don't know what's going on. It's a hurricane going on in me.
mm,
Then you know, then I'll say something, I'll snap, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, you're missing your mother. Maybe you should just go take some time for yourself." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "You're right. I am." Or if, you know, he says something and I'm like, you miss your aunt, huh? Or you miss this person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you already know the behavior and what it is, but it's so much freeing to talk. I know we don't like to divulge or cry.
Yeah.
I love crying. I'll cry with the best of them. So if you need
Um,
anybody to cry with, girl, call me. I got
mm,
you.
mm,
I
mm,
will
mm,
just
mm, mm.
cry just because you crying. You know what I
okay.
mean? And
Lord have
I
mercy.
get real snotty. I get the snotty, the eyes, you know.
Not just cry, yeah.
You know, I do it all. You don't think somebody killed my cat, you know?
Yes.
But you know, it's important to talk. It's important to let some, you know, just to have someone. I My best friends, the ones that helped me the most through my mom's death, was the ones who just sat there and said, I'm sorry you're going through that. That's all they said. Nothing. They would spend hours with me, but they wouldn't say, we'd be watching TV, whatever, and if we started talking about something, they was like, wow, I'm really sorry you're going through that. I'm here.
Yeah.
That's it. That's sometimes that's all a person needs, you know?
Yes, ma'am. And see, you just hit on, what healing and scars look like, for different people after you've endured the injury, you've endured that traumatic situation. Um, the healing process includes, still going about your daily life, finding a reason to smile. That can be very hard, especially when you're grieving over anything.
Mm,
Not giving in to the hurt, relying on your faith or your spirituality, again, wherever your faith system lies. And then forgiveness. That is a huge one.
mm,
I've often heard, and I don't know if I'm kind of tired of hearing it, you have to be okay with the apology you'll never get. That one is a hard one to swallow. So, say you experience a trauma that was caused by someone that committed suicide, that was later killed. I've heard those stories. Um, They are in prison. They just refuse to apologize. Period.
Mm.
That puts a hurdle in your life.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
And
I
you
know.
mentioned it earlier, Mr. Best in the world, about you want to talk to the person that hurt you, but you can't. What do
Yep.
you do then?
Mm.
They're gone, or they can't hold that conversation, or they won't hold that conversation.
Mm.
What do you do? What do you do?
Mm. So I got so here's my thing. Here's what I wanted to ask. Now, is forgetting a part of you forgiving? You have to necessarily forget at some point. No.
No,
Okay.
because again, that scar is there. And I keep looking at my hand, but the scar is, it could be a trigger, it could be a
Mm.
smell, it could be seeing something on a TV show. Like it affects you in any kind of way. That scar is still there. It's just a reminder that that thing happened to you, and the residue, I guess you say, is still in. It's still there. It's never gonna go away. Let's talk. Let's just get real dirty. Not dirty. Let's just get down to the nitty gritty and call these things what they are: rape, molestation, physical abuse, verbal abuse, death of a loved one, loss of a child. There's so many women who long to be pregnant and have children, and who often are unsuccessful. You know, that is very traumatic for some women. Um,
Mm.
there are women who have children and the man abandons them. There are women who have children as a result of a rape. Um, I mean, the list goes on and on. But those are some very hurtful. Your family member or loved one is killed by some random person who had no regard for life, who didn't value anybody's life, let alone the person you love. Like, so these are deep traumas that
Mm.
they take a while, if ever, to really find some, I don't know, like, you just, at some point, you have to rise, get to a place where you do get back to life, but it won't be as it was. It's never going to be
Mm.
the same. Um,
Mm.
and I'm trying to tread lightly on my words so I don't come across as insensitive. Because so
Mm.
far, I think for me, the most traumatic things that have happened to me was just the loss of my parents and my
Mm.
divorce. And, some people might say, well, trauma is it. Let's try to one up each other. That's another thing people try to do. They try to one up you. Oh, well, you went through that. Well, I went through
Mm.
this. I'm not trying to take what you went through away from you. This is what happened to me. Obviously, God knew this is what I can and can't handle. So this is what he gave
Mm.
to me. This is what he allowed me to go through. Anyway, those are my
Mm.
thoughts on that. But y'all can jump in and please share your
Mm.
thoughts.
Queen, what do you think, Queen?
I'm sorry, what'd you say? I had to walk away for a minute.
Well, no, we're talking about like forgiveness and just um sometimes it's forgiveness. You're not able to have conversations with certain people, maybe because they're not ready for it, maybe because they're not here anymore. Like, how do you process through that? And how do you completely forgive?
And then he asks, does forgiveness equate forgetting?
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
absolutely not.
but I will say that forgiveness equates. Well, I don't know. I would say there's a okay. So your first part of the question is, um, I believe that you can have you can write a letter, you can have a conversation expressing the hurt that you felt. um you don't necessarily need to have it with that person, and if they're no longer here, you know so but I do think that if the person is here, I've had conversations with people, and I know that they will never own anything that they've done. But me having that conversation is not for them. It was for me.
Mm,
For me
Mm-hmm.
to just simply say, what happened? Like, why did you switch up? Did I do something wrong? Like, you were this way, you were here, and all of a sudden, you walk by me, you don't speak, you don't, like, what happened? I'm hurt. And the person will say, I've had a person say, oh no, I'm fine. I don't feel anything towards you. And I'm like, so what happened? Oh, and they give you the excuses, and I'm like,
mm,
okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I didn't have that. I wasn't approaching that person because I thought that they were going to be so insightful and so humble and express, and I'm like, okay, cool. So, and I'm good now. I'm good. If they never speak to me again, if they never whatever, I'm good because I've expressed myself, you know um so yeah. So I think having that conversation is very important, and it doesn't matter who it is. I've had to have conversations with adult figures in my life and say, "Hey, when you talk this way, or when you say this, and it's very hurtful. I
mm.
don't feel like you're calling me because you're genuinely concerned about me. I feel like you're calling me because you want to express yourself about this person, or say this, or s- ask me a question, but you're not calling me just to say hi to me, and or ask me for something, like you need something. And I'm not okay with that. I need for you to not always call me when you need me. I need you to just
Yeah.
call me just to say hello sometimes,
Girl, put that on
you
a
know?
billboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, I didn't know where that conversation was, how that person
Hold
was
on one
going to take
second,
that.
Queen.
Go
Just
ahead.
want to give a special shout out to She Stole My Thunder. Hello, She Stole My Thunder. Good to
Hey.
see you. If you'd like to join the conversation, She Stole My Thunder, the link is pinned in the chat as well as in the comments. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah. So I think that I didn't know how this person was going to take it, but I will say that my conversations with this person is very different now,
Okay.
because I did express myself. I didn't think this person was going to change because they're older and they're set in their ways, and but I've gotten several phone calls. Hey, I was just seeing how you doing. Messages, or hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm just calling to say hello. And then when we talk, it's just, hey, how's it going? Blah 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 blah. When you gonna come? When can we spend some time together? And then it's not always about, oh, I need this, or can you give me this? So
Okay.
and I do believe that sometimes when you're hurt, that I know for me, sometimes when I talk about a situation, it's almost like I'm reliving it.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's that I'm still holding on to it,
Okay.
or if, because I know some things I have held on to, or if it's just when I talk about it, it bring like the emotions come in it. So, I've had people say, "Wow, you sound really bitter," or you still sound this way, and I'm like, I feel like I'm just talking about it, but I know sometimes I do feel like I'm reliving it, if that makes sense.
But
So,
sometimes that could be part of your healing process.
mm,
Talking about something, because again, just smashing something down, tucking it away, it doesn't go away. It's out of sight, out of mind for 5 minutes, but it doesn't go away. And so oftentimes we may need to just talk it out, talk about it, because you never know. Whoever's in the space where you're talking about your story, it may be somebody new who needed to hear your story. They may have been going through something, I've had people tell me all the time because I deal with lymphedema. Life has been very challenging, which is why I'm in a facility now. But I still choose to live and thrive and not just exist. That's why I'm doing this live from my bed. Anyway, can't believe I said that out loud. But here we are. Um, People have told me, Quabila, people are watching you. Even though I was up and around doing community stuff, working, whatever, people are watching you. People are inspired by you. Keep going. I've had people just randomly text me, keep going. You're so beautiful. Like inside out. But I do love a good makeup look, don't get me wrong. But they're like, somebody needs to see and hear your story. To me, it comes across as I'm looking for sympathy. And I tell people up front, I don't need, desire,
Mm,
sympathy. I'm only telling you my story to educate you and
mhm,
hopefully to get you to advocate for somebody else. So
mm,
spare me the no tears, no tears, no tears. That's not what this is about, you know.
mhm,
So, but talking about it also, it helps you to kind of reflect. Um, I had a moment with my physical therapist when I first got here because I was down in a place. And so she was like, She came in, opened my blinds, opened the door, turned the lights on. She's like, she brought these little colorful little cards. She's like, okay, we're going to write some stuff. We're going to manifest. Blah, 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 blah. So she was like, tell me about you. Who's Quabila? What have you done in your life? I said, okay. So she started writing stuff on cards. And then she pasted them all around the room. She's like, whenever you feel like you have a moment, a down, dark moment, look at these little colorful cards and say, I've done this, I've done that, I'm that, that will help pick you up out of this space. Same
mm,
thing with our healing process. It's like, yes, I was molested. Yes, I was raped. I'm still standing. They didn't break me completely. I'm not in my grave. I survived that. They thought they could take me down. I survived. And I'm sorry, I'm getting like, I've never been raped. And I
mhm,
apologize to anyone who has,
mhm.
anyone who's been molested to a point. Like, I apologize if I come across. I'm not trying to be insensitive at all. I promise I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
It's just, I've been through situations in life that I haven't, there's still some things that are like we haven't told anybody.
mhm,
And yeah, you just, I survived. That's like all you can, I survived. I'm still here. So, yes, I'm going to talk about it. I am going to own this scar. I'm going to dress up this scar. It's not going to take me over. I'm going to
mm,
own it.
yeah,
Whatever you just tell yourself as you
yeah,
go through your healing process. Don't fake in front. Don't. I used to wear a masquerade mask, a proverbial, masquerade mask, and just kind of go through life floating. Uh-uh. Sometimes you just take the mask off, take
yeah,
the veil off, and just deal with it. Yes, it's hard. I'm not trying to say, oh, it's easy. It's no, by no means is it easy at all.
yeah,
But what I will say this from personal account, I went through a phase where I was angry with my brother, my oldest brother on my mom's side. I was 14, my mom was sick. He still treated me like this little girl, like he my daddy. And I never had a dad growing up, like in my life full time. And so I made a comment to him. He rushed me, hemmed me up. And then I went to a phase where I hated him. And my big sister was like, you need to let this go. You need to talk about it, deal with it. And here I am, 45, and I still reflect on that moment when I was 14. So I'm not over it. We don't get over stuff. We go through it. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. She stole my thunder. Anyone else in the audience they want to chime in? Miss Queen, you want to chime in? Because I'm finna get on the soapbox and get really emotional and passionate. But I'm gonna calm it down. I'm gonna calm it down. I'm gonna calm down.
no, I think it's true. I think people have to. stop being afraid of sharing their story, you know, um, because sometimes it can be looked upon and as shameful, you
Yes.
know. I think I think Oprah did that special where she had all those black men on there. Was it? I think it was all black men. I can't remember, but they were talking about how they've been victims of child sexual inappropriateness. Um, but I think it was cleansing for that community to share that because, especially males, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times they don't share, they don't talk about the things that they've been through, and it just makes them hard and or um disconnected, you
Yeah.
know, because I feel like the more you try to suppress it, the more it can come out and show its ugly head, but it becomes something different. It's like, you're just mixing a whole bunch of animals together. You don't know what you're gonna get if with all
Right.
this inbreeding, and you don't know how that animal is going to respond or react. Not calling people animals,
Yeah.
but um, it's kind of like when you're cooking, you don't just throw everything in your cabinet together and say, "Oh, I made a bomb meal." It's you have to. There's a dance or
Yes.
you know a thing you have to do. You have to know how to blend the spices and what goes well with this, and not everything goes well together, and you got to be okay with that, finding that out. And I think sometimes we don't treat ourselves as delicate as we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're very delicate, and I think we can expose ourselves to too much that we don't need. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's out there, that don't mean that it has to be in my life, or I
It
have
has.
to be a part of that, or I have to experience that, or I have to taste that, or I have to go there. I don't have to,
That's right.
and it's okay. It doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't make me wimp. It doesn't make me sad. It doesn't make me, I think sometimes we want to be a part of everything, and we call it living our best lives, but we don't really realize that not everything's for us.
Yes.
And I'm not a test tube. I'm not a test dummy. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you just go around to you test everything, you sample everything. That's
No.
just not me. And that's how we treat our lives. That's how we treat our emotions, our inner selves. We treat ourselves like we're just you know, in a factory testing everything.
No. Right.
And we don't realize the repercussions, or the end result of that is very destructive to us.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we put we tell ourselves so much we're okay with it, that we start believing it. Like, I don't understand it. I will never understand. I'm glad I don't. And I'm glad I don't really roll with the crowd as much as others. I never really was that growing
Mm-hmm.
up, although, I had my moments, but I was never like, maybe that's why I wasn't as popular or whatever else, because I just didn't roll with the group. I would just go home. I was like, I ain't doing that. I'm going home. Y'all tripping. And then I would get caught because I cut school, but I wasn't with the crowd at the mall stealing. I went home and went to sleep. And my
Okay.
mama caught me, so I got in trouble. But hey, at least I ain't get no, nothing on my record.
I know that's right.
Mama didn't raise no fool. I was a fool in certain areas, but there's certain
Not a,
things I just said, no, I ain't doing that.
okay.
Experimenting. I'm cool. Nah, I'm good. I don't like how it made. You see how I made homegirl over here look? I
Yeah.
ain't doing that. No, no, no.
Yes.
No, sir.
Oh
Come on,
goodness.
Queen. Come on, Queen. You such a punk. You whack. Okay, well, call me all the nicknames you want, but Queen ain't doing it.
I know that's right. Look, I thank God that He took His rod and pushed me back and said,
Yeah.
"No, ma'am, that ain't for you. Go back this way." So,
Yep.
thank
Yep.
God.
Go. Go over there.
Oh gosh. All right, so I'm gonna just read a few more pointers, and we're gonna wrap this
Okay.
conversation up. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you for joining in and helping to extend and expand this conversation. I hope that everyone who has tuned in has enjoyed it. I try to, mix a little nerdy with the real life and, bring it full circle. Again, give you that hashtag cozy conversation that makes you just feel like you're sitting back with a blanket and a cup of tea and just having a really relaxed conversation. And thank you, Mr. Best in the World, for offering this space to me. So I'm going to just read a few more and then we can discuss as we end. All right, so you already it's like you've been reading my notes beforehand. We tapped in you tapped into what it looks like to pick at your scars. So, you've gone through this traumatic experience. You're going through the healing process. Things are looking worse before they looks better. It's starting to look better, but it's still ugly in the ugly phase. Um, then we start picking at it. And so that looks like remaining angry, not going to therapy, reliving that moment over and over and over. So again, it goes back to being angry, um, falling into a deep emotional pit, and then destructive behaviors, as you mentioned. Now, destructive behaviors can come in a variety of ways. For me, as a teenager, I it was sex. um, Unprotected sex. I'm just gonna be real. We're adults now. I'm an adult now. I can be real about it, and hopefully, my truth will help shed some light on someone else. Um, I didn't do drugs because that just wasn't my thing. I did drink alcohol, so sex and alcohol. And when I tell you, God, nothing but God spared my life. I don't have a whole bunch of babies. I don't have a disease I can't get rid of. I was never abused. I made some real bad choices in life, but I still maintained my grades. I did stupid stuff, and God, nothing but God, nothing but the blood of Jesus. That's all I can say on that. Um, but just some final thoughts that I want you to take with you as we close, and then I will give my guests some space to share their final thoughts. Okay. Wounds and scars can affect how we see ourselves and how we think the world sees us. So that thing that happened to us can change our viewpoint on how we see ourselves. We often look at ourselves as that trauma, as that thing that happened to us. And then we think the world can see that too. And then the world views and judges us by that same notion. We live in an imperfect world. As you live, you will be wounded. So we're all gonna scrape our knee, hand. I can't tell you how many times I done fell face forward and scraped up my hands. I cannot tell you. I done scraped my knee, my elbow, whatever. I can't tell you how many times somebody cussed at me, cut me off on the road. Someone looked at me wrong. Someone did something racist. Like, we're going to experience some things in life that's unavoidable. However, you will live to heal and develop scars as a reminder that you survived. So if you don't take away anything else from this discussion, take away I survived. Whatever happened to me or that I allowed to happen to me, I survived. You know, and again, wherever your faith and spirituality lies, you survived. You had some higher power looking out for you, um, and you survived. Do the hard work, the inner reflection work, the shadow work. That means going through the fog, trudging, trudging through the mud, putting on your rain boots and raincoat, or better yet, just go out in the rain. Just get soaking wet, whatever that looks like for you. Let the tears fall. Let the emotions cycle. Don't let anybody sell you a cookie cutter advice book. Don't do that. Do what you need to do for yourself, whatever that looks like. But you got to go through it. You got to get dirty. It's going to get messy. It will. That's unavoidable. Unlock the chains that keep you in bondage. I just did an episode on my podcast. It's time for a prison break. Oftentimes we put our own self in prison because of what has happened to us. Life happens. There are things that are self inflicted, yes. But when life happens to you, it causes us to go into this bondage state. And we often have the key to get ourselves out, but we don't want to do the work. We want to stay comfortable and cozy on the hard floor, on the salt, on that rough mattress behind those metal doors, because we don't want to face what's out there. Do the work. It's time to get out of bondage. How long is totally up to you and what you've been through. Don't rush it. Don't let nobody else rush you through what you need to do for your healing process. It's yours and yours alone. But the work has to be done. You can't stand still. You got to move forward. The healing stages are not pleasant, but they're necessary. Again, unless you want to lose everything in your life and become homeless, or you want to end up in a mental institution, you can't stand still. And it's necessary to go through the healing. It's necessary to go through it. I'm sorry, it just is. But again, the time, the process, that's all personal. It's up to you. Your healing time is yours. Like I just said, don't let anyone rush you. But again, you can't stand still. Give yourself grace, and I put that in capital letters, and mercy during your process. Give yourself the space and time to fall back sometimes. Give yourself the space and time, the grace and mercy to have a very emotional day. I'm turning my phone off. I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm not watching TV. I don't even want the refrigerator to hum. I don't want to hear no sounds, no light, no nothing. Get in the bed, put on your sleep mask, close all your curtains, and be with yourself and God and whoever else, whatever entity you serve. It's okay. I promise you, the world will keep going. People are gonna be there tomorrow. Pray to God. But give yourself grace and mercy to go through the process, or as you're going through your process. And lastly, but not least, no matter how your scars look, flaunt them and love yourself. Love yourself. I mean, if you have a keloid scar, still dress it up and love yourself. If you have something that has been totally life shattering, life altering, as you're working through it and you get to a space where it doesn't hurt as bad, but the evidence is still there, love yourself. Flaunt it. I went through this.
I want to
Yes.
give a special shout out real quick to M3 and Knowledge and Relationships. Good to see you, brother. And
Hey,
yes, everyone get
M3.
the likes up.
So those are my thoughts, and I want to read this quote one more time, even though I read it in the beginning. For those that came in later, I want to read this quote just to end on. My scars remind me that I did indeed survive my deepest wounds. They remind me that the damage has inflicted on me has in many places left me stronger. So this has been your conversations for today. I'm gonna ask Miss Queen and Mr. Best in the World to share their final thoughts, and we'll end it on that.
Um, Thank you for inviting me and welcoming me into the conversations. I do want to just leave this conversation with just be patient with yourself. Allow
Mm,
yourself the time and the space to heal the way that you need to heal that's best for you. Don't ignore it. Uh, don't fight the people who are pushing you to heal and deal, because those are the people that 9 times out of 10 are willing to go through that rocky road with you. Um, yeah, but I would say the most important thing is being patient and gentle with yourself, because I think so many times we can beat ourselves up and say, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and stay in that mode of regret versus, you know, that's not what happened because maybe I wouldn't have been able to handle that, or um, maybe that would have been the straw on the camel's back that took me out, you know,
Mm,
um, and being okay with that, because I think sometimes we can be our worst enemy
mhm,
in how we handle ourselves and our feelings or our disappointments, our losses, our grief, um, even our self worth. We can be, either our biggest champions or our biggest critics.
Yeah.
And sometimes that critic voice is a lot louder and stronger than the champion voice. So,
Yes, indeed.
you know, um, just be patient, patient with yourself, patient with your growth, but just not ignoring things either, not putting it off. I would say trying to deal with something every day to heal, to get yourself in a healing process. It's kind of like if you had to take penicillin, they tell you, hey, don't stop and take it all.
Yeah.
Even if you feel better, you got to empty this bottle.
Yes.
And I think we have to be willing to push ourselves a little further. I think we're not as fragile sometimes as we can feel. You know, um, I always said there's purpose in my pain. You know,
Yes.
um, I want to say that right after, really briefly, right after, my mom passed. When I was able to go back to school, um, my first week at school, I met three people, well, two people. One whose father was deleted unexpectedly by someone he didn't know, and another girl, her mom was dying of cancer, and I so happenly was in both these young lady classes.
feel
One I
sorry,
knew,
Sade.
but one I didn't know, and I immediately um gave to them the way I needed someone to give to me.
Okay.
So I found out one of the girls, I found out her favorite thing was butterflies because we had to talk about ourselves in the class. I knew she liked pink and purple, and I knew her
Oh,
favorite thing was butterflies. And I got her a journal. I got a pink and purple butterfly journal, and I got her a butterfly pen. And I gave it to her the next time I saw her, and I said, "Hey, I I'm really sorry about what you shared about losing your father. I lost my mom to cancer. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." And she gave me for Christmas, she gave me, or for my birthday, I think I can't remember. She wrote me a card and she gave me like a wind chime magnet for the refrigerator. And she wrote, I still have this card, and this is
oh
like a
wow.
while ago. And she wrote in the card, oh, go ahead.
No, that was Mr.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead, Mr. Best in the World.
I
Oh,
have to
that's
bring,
his
yes, I have to
doorbell
bring
number.
somebody in
Oh,
to our
okay.
screen. You know what I'm saying? As I always I call him the best leader in YouTube. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? And he is knowledge and relationships himself. I'm gonna bring in the homie M3. What's going on, brother?
What's up,
Hey.
everyone? How you
What's
guys
up?
doing?
So I do want to finish up really briefly and say that the card she wrote me, and it said that I never thought I would find such comfort and support from a complete stranger. Thank you, and you renewed my faith in people,
Wow.
individuals. And I still have this card to this day. I even tried to find her on Facebook, but I forgot her
Oh,
last name. But you know, like there's a reason I went through what I went through, because when I was able to stand in the storm, not necessarily the storm was over, I was able to see someone else in distress.
wow.
So
Amazing. Thank you so
Mm.
much for
Mm,
sharing that.
yeah.
Mr. M3, what it do, what it is, what it ain't, what it gonna be.
How you doing, Queen B?
I
Good
am
to see you.
wonderful. You too. So I know you came in halfway through the conversation, but
Yeah.
and we were kind of wrapping up a little bit, but you have anything you want to talk about when in relation to scars or healed wounds? I'm gonna recap everything in the discussion. You got to go back and watch it, but you
Oh,
know,
no
and
problem. I'll catch the replay.
as in real life, um, physically, biologically, we have wounds to turn to scars. You know,
Hmm.
and then in life, things happen to us that eventually scab over, then heal, and you know, but we're still living with that evidence that something happened to us. So, any
Yeah.
advice, any thoughts, anything you would like to, share
Sure.
from male perspective?
Yeah, I'll just share like, my personal view onto it. And salute to Mr. Best as well too, and Queen
Salute,
Beautiful
salute, brother.
Story.
Salute.
Um, see, the thing is like, when we have like our scars, okay, we have to use, I call it battle scars, you
Okay.
know, because once you have a certain scar, especially an emotional scar, it is really hard, what I mean, to at least numb that pain away. Because you can never take that pain away, if you know what
No.
I mean. And you have to find ways to try to deal with it. I feel like, when you go through certain things, certain challenges in life that's dramatic and painful, like, similar to Queen's story, you're able to help someone who is not emotionally equipped to handle that similar type of pain. And you could kind of be that subtle voice that tells them, hey, look, don't give up in life, don't quit. Even if you're going to go through the storm, keep
Hmm.
continuing to do what you need to do, you know, to make, your people proud, the people who you lost, you know, make them, do something that will put a smile on their face as they're looking down from you from heaven. That's
Hmm.
how I look at it. And so continue um to heal over time. Like I said, it's never gonna go away. But my advice is keep talking about it. Talk to somebody that is not gonna make you feel worse.
Thank
Because
you.
there's somebody that's out there that's gonna be listening. And there's gonna be someone who's gonna actually need to hear that.
Yep.
So keep doing what you're doing and don't be afraid to open up. That takes real courage to be vulnerable. And I feel like that should never be joked around. It should be taken seriously. And that's pretty much
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, we didn't get into this, but since we have two males now, um, and I was going to also, give Mr. Best in the World the time to say we need to say, from a male perspective, you know, men are, society says, men are not as expressive, men are not as emotional, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sick of all these, this, that, and whatever. However, as black men in this society, do you feel you have an extra weight or burden on you when it comes to going through traumatic situations, whether it's racism, whether it's loss of your job, whether it's loss of a child? People don't realize the man loses a child as well when it comes to miscarriage,
Mm-hmm.
death, or whatever. Yes, the woman gave birth. Yes, the woman is pregnant, but the father loses a child as well. When it comes
Hmm.
to different things that men go through, like what say you guys? Like, do you feel extra burden on you to go through your healing process at a different rate and process than women or anyone else?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And the part that makes things more hurtful for us is that we don't have an outlet to turn to. We can't just when we're emotionally distraught, the same way like, men would tell you to, pick it up and suck it up and get over it. It's the same thing that women, it's the same way that women's going to say the same thing to you because there's always going to be an expectation, and especially for like black men too. Unfortunately, we don't have uh, a strong community that
Mm-hmm.
helps deal with mental health for men,
Okay.
and because of that is the reason why our only source and outlet that will be socially acceptable is getting angry. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
black men are really emotional, but
Mm-hmm.
because of all the trauma that we went through, all the times we had to suppress our emotions, but we mask it with violence,
Mm-hmm.
temper tantrums. Because, like I said before, it's acceptable. So, um, but in the end, it deletes us on the inside internally,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I will wish that more of us will have. People that would actually care for our mental health and well being, but our stuff is never taken seriously.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mr. Best in the world.
Um, I would say for men, it's definitely a process. Because when you're told that your your reaction to pain, excuse me, needs to be that you don't react to the pain. That you just push through. you know, I've heard so many times, even as a young child, what are you crying for? You a man. What I mean? Be a man. So I think what that does to someone is that it can make them desensitized, it can make them stoic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It can make them, less sympathetic to things that's going around them. Like they just become like a cyborg almost. You know what I mean? Because you're told that emotions don't matter. You're told that the only thing that matters is the results that you provide in life. And excuse me. And if you're providing those results, then you don't forget emotions. You know what I mean? Ignore your emotions, ignore how you feel, ignore what you're thinking, ignore the things that are actually, bothering you or hindering you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that doesn't teach you emotional responsibility. All it teaches you how to do is just kind of to shelve what you really feel,
Wow.
and you never really, really actually are able to express what you really feel. And then that just, you know, allows you just to have destructive behaviors, whether it's drinking, whether it's getting into different things with women, whether it's smoking, whether it's whatever, whether it's being a workaholic. And sometimes, excuse me, you wind up doing all these things. You know, you wind up taking a trip down down each of these avenues. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you're told that you can't express your emotions. So I'm express something. You know what I mean? Like I'm express something. You know what I mean? So and I'm gonna use different forms and different things to help me through my expression. And can't nobody tell me anything because y'all told me not to express no emotions, right? Y'all told me that
Yeah.
all I had to do was work hard and provide. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You didn't tell me that I had to be morally good. You didn't tell me any of those things. You know what I'm saying? You just said work hard and provide. You know what I mean?
Maybe
So
that's a whole nother discussion. Look.
yeah. So due to that, you know what I'm saying? I won't now, as an adult now, you know what I'm saying? You expect me to, be able to be emotionally vulnerable, you know what I mean? But yet also you expect me to care when you want me to care, right? But then you want me to be a cyborg and not care at certain points. Like that's not how life works. You know what I mean? I have emotions, so my emotions are going to be different depending on different things that happen to me or the people that I care about. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Now I don't need to let. I know I shouldn't let those emotions make me irrational, right?
Right.
But at times that may happen,
Yeah.
and if I take responsibility, excuse me, in order to correct that behavior, then nothing else matters. So, excuse me, y'all, allergies. Um, at the end of the day, I think with men, we need to feel free to express ourselves and express what we're feeling, and continue to
Hmm.
do that, and not listen to what other people are saying.
Yes, sir, indeed. I can't thank y'all enough. I wrote down some topic ideas. Um, Mixed messages. What society tells us, boys versus girls, male versus females, whatever. So I'm gonna put a pin in that. It's gonna be another conversation for another day. And Mr. M3, we definitely would love to have you on that conversation in Queen. So I will let Mr. Best in the World know ahead of time, so y'all can make arrangements accordingly. So, but I thank you all so very much for popping in, popping through, having this cozy conversation with me. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. You can find us here every Tuesday. Tonight was a little different. Got the time change. However, next Tuesday about 7 o'clock, well, Central, 5 o'clock. I want to say Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. Um, thank you, thank you, Mr. Best in the World, for allowing me this space to share my thoughts and views on a variety of topics.
Most definitely, family. Everybody, please like and subscribe. Follow QB on her journey here, and also her Instagram journey. She has some great content. Excuse me, and yeah, thanks everybody in the comments who support it. Thank you, Queen, for coming up. Thank you, M3, for coming up. Truly appreciate that. And with that, we have a lot of great stuff that we have coming up in the Knowledge Relationship family, the Intellectual Soapbox family. We have a gang of content coming for y'all. This spring, like this whole week, we got something for y'all. So stay tuned, okay? Stay aware, all right? And we gotta and look for them notifications because they coming. All right. And much love to you, QB. You know what I mean? Thank you for being a part of my platform. And thank everyone for being on here. With that, y'all have a good evening. We are out.
The DJ,